Welcome to SEO Conspiracy.com.
Hello, how are you?
Mr. Dixon Jones, I missed you.
Well, we're all doing well over here in England. It's all good.
Yeah, it's been a while since we recorded. I had to shave my beard because my wife said I look like a terrorist, a Taliban. So,
but you do.
I am a search engine terrorist.
And we're probably recording this right at the start of a storm over where you are. Have you got a storm coming over there, or is it missing you?
It's raining very, very hard. Yes.
Yeah, I think we're going to get it tomorrow, or later. Anyway.
Definitely thick, big rain with like big. The rain that makes you wet. No, not the not the Scottish rain that.
the thin and I know what you mean. Okay.
You know when it falls like vertical, so you don't get wet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're thinner than me then. You know.
But listen, like talking about getting wet, like. Does studying patents, scientific documents, reading Bill Swalski's blog, does that help as a SEO?
Well, I think that there's a couple of things about that. I think the most significant thing, honestly, I read everything that Bill, a lot of what Bill does because he goes into a lot of depth, but he's very careful to point out that just because it's in a patent or in a document doesn't mean to say it's in the algorithm. So he's making a distinction between research or patents or legal documents and the algorithm. And that's a very clever little thing for him to be able to do, because he doesn't have to get on the wrong side of Google by saying this is how Google works and get into the black box and annoy everybody. So he stays on the right side of Google by not actually claiming anything at all. But here's the thing that I think is the weakness of that. It's great for Bill because it makes him stand out as a very unique person within the industry.
For sure.
But and there's a few others as well. But the disadvantage, particularly of patents, of course, is that the patent is awarded a long time after it's been thought about. And I think that that's if you hadn't got ahead of the curve before the patent came out, then it's unlikely. We'll have already thought about it. We'll already know about. We'll either be acting upon it, or if we haven't been acting upon it, it would just be a bit of a surprise, I think, if it's in the algorithm. So I think the fact that it takes so long for a patent to come out is particularly important. And also, contrary to that, the scientific research documents tend to be right at the start of a project. So you have to start thinking about the theory before you can apply it to products. So probably the scientific papers are better to analyze and read. But you need to check the dates on a lot of them, because I read ones again and again, but they're very old. They're quite old research. Potentially going back to before Google. Some of them, they're not Google's.
Even from like the last century, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, and they still are really important. So I think that the research papers are interesting, but there's no guarantee they're going to end up in a final product. The patents are also interesting because obviously Google cares enough to try and protect themselves in some way, shape, or form, but they're a long way behind the curve. So you're talking about things that are before and after the curve, and still no guarantee that they're in the product at all.
It feels like people want to understand what they want. And Bill is very careful. I know his research process. You're right. He investigates the scientific papers, and also he's profiling the scientist, the guy.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's also a very important point. But let's take, for example, pogo sticking. It's a Yahoo patent. Google is most likely also using something similar. Or the trust rank also, that was Yahoo patent.
Yahoo's,
So people are mixing up things. changing them up as they it pleases them, or
now I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that way back. I'm going back 15 years, 10, 15 years now. I think that Yahoo and Microsoft and Google have a agreement not to sue each other over each other's patents. I think they've decided that it's just easier for each one to get their patents and then not argue with each other, rather than trying to use patents as a protectionist tool. But it then really raised the question of whether patents are useful as in that context. I don't know if they are or not.
I don't know about you, but I also prefer scientific papers, because patents, the format, the way it's... The problem with scientific papers is those goddamn scientists, they all express themselves very differently from one another. So you have to try to get into the mindset of the guy. But they, like you said, it's you have to dig earlier than the patent. The patent is just a final document.
Yeah, I like the papers because they're about me learning. You know, when I'm reading a scientific paper, hopefully I'm reading it because I'm already trying to think about something, and I'm trying to find scientific papers around it. And I do like to read them because I don't know. I think that I'm being clever. I don't know if I am. I don't know how much I take in. It's also another book I just bought. Where is it? It's this one here. So I just bought this book as well. So this is let's get in front of the camera. Artificial Intelligence: A Modern Approach, and that's by Russell and Peter Norvig. And Peter Norvig is right up there in the hierarchy of Google as the head of research at Google. So basically, if I'm reading a book by him, I think that's a pretty good thing, because his thinking has got to be, at least in some way, shaping Google. So it's a good person to learn from, I think. But it's a big book. It's really big.
Yes, people tend to forget that behind algorithms, you have human beings and the way they're shaped, their experiences, their culture, values. The algorithm is just a tool to achieve something. Yeah, but there's a mind.
And a lot of the research that's done, or speech machine learning, or the AI stuff that's coming out and stuff, it requires humans in the loop at some point in the system quite a lot of the time. You know, so a machine will do something because whether it's a user or whether it's a trusted seed set that's been human created, or whether they've read a whole load of books that were written by humans were in the loop. And a lot of those algorithms. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, a part of the writer, of course, is a human, and then some of the maths and things that they do, it still has humans in the loop as well.
And even if we talked about it, and then the importance of machine learning and scaling it up, but there's also a failure of algorithm to a certain level. Especially right now, I don't know about Google, but I know YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all those guys are doubling their staff of moderator humans who have to sort out the fake news and all that stuff because
of elections.
Yes, they don't want 2016 to happen again, elections and all that. So they want to because of the big tech hearing, they want to show good faith that they're doing whatever it takes to clean up the.
And that's probably nothing to do with patents or papers, though. It's just bunging human beings into the system.
And even for machine learning, you need human validations for the data set to say.
That's really Google's quality rated guidelines, isn't it? And that's all those thousands of people, or however many people they've got, that just sit there and use humans to judge the effectiveness of the algorithm. And I think that's a really interesting thing, that they use humans to check the maths.
So
I wonder if they got a patent around that.
If we go back to the beginning, I don't know about you, but I had a couple of breakthrough reading scientific papers. The biggest one was definitely the topic sensitive PageRank.
Okay.
Or the topical trust flow.
Topical page rank. Topical trust flow if you're going to use Majestic. But let's be honest, topical trust flow is Majestic's thing. Topical page rank is Google's thing.
Totally, but
I'm not going to pretend they're the same.
We'll talk about domain authority next.
Okay,
so no spoiler alert, because we will compare those kind of metrics. But even going back, I was talking about the last century, because the Salton cosinus. Remember that one? The vector, the distance between entities.
Yes. Sorry, what did you just call it though?
Salton cosinus.
Cosines.
Cosinus. I don't know.
Cosines.
Yes.
Cosines.
Cosines. Forgive my French. But anyway, what's very interesting is that when you know that Amit Singhal was a student of Professor Salton, and then you're like, okay, it all makes sense. That's the way
that's a cosinus. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce cosinus then. Okay, sorry. I thought you were saying cosines as in some kind of geometry. But anyway, right.
Yeah,
okay.
No, it is. Let me see, how do you pronounce cosinus in English?
I'm going for cosines.
Cosinus, how English?
You're gonna have to edit this out now, aren't you?
No, we're freestyling.
Right.
Cosines, cosine.
Cosines, good.
Cosine, okay.
Right.
I figured it was like a Latin word, so it probably should be the same in English and French.
No.
Another fail. That's okay.
So
cosine, yes, Salton cosine. It's the base of the base of. If you want to understand what is in relation to what, I need to associate. And now we're way past that. But if it's like breadcrumbs, you go from one algorithm to one. And like you said before, you feel so much smarter, because you're like, this is not so difficult. This is not like nuclear research or.
Honestly, it's not, is it? It just takes time to digest new words, new ways of seeing things and stuff. But I think I started getting it when we started doing it for ourselves at Inlinks in particular, and started to see that I could build a knowledge graph that will sit there and say, right, when somebody talks about, I don't know, engines in this context, then they're talking about search engines and internet and things like that. And when they're talking about engines in this context, they're talking about cars and tires and things. So being able to sit there and see it, in something that we've built, sit there and say, right, there's two completely different meanings of the same word, and we can see, the closeness of different topics, just on a page that we've created is something really exciting, I think, and then going back and seeing whether somebody else has done it the same way is probably secondary, really. But,
True. To end up on this topic, we have also to compare when we learn SEO and today.
Yeah.
Because today it's a lot more difficult to analyze, okay, I'm doing something, what kind of effect it will have and how fast. Feels like before it was simple. The results were the same for 24 hours. During the night, the data centers were moving. And then so you could analyze, okay, I do something, action, reaction, or not.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you need a lot of patience, because it takes a lot longer to do all the calculus and.
I don't know. I think I'm getting more focused than I have for a long time. I guess maybe it's because I spent so long, with a Majestic and just concentrating on the link part of the algorithm. I kind of left, the consultancy side of SEO behind, and my consultancy. I sold my consultancy and everything. But now I'm kind of back in Inlinks, and I'm starting to really look at on-page and stuff. You can change your rankings pretty quick in on-page, I think. Okay, it's harder to get yourself into into a knowledge panel, or it's harder to do some things. Some things take a lot more time, but other things, are getting, quicker and quicker, I think. It's just that not always, the things don't always move the dial the way that you thought they were going to.
Yes, we're talking about two different things, because you are right about the, especially if you want to, for example, associate entities, even coming out of nothing. Okay, Dixon Jones is an entity, and it's coming up.
Google better bloody understand that. No.
But you were associated with maybe backlinks, and now you are getting associated with semantic. That's something coming up, and that's happening fast. But since you are an expert about links, backlinks, it feels, in my opinion, that it takes a lot longer than before for the effect of a link to really, like the full extent of its power.
Yeah,
like
well,
3-4 months.
I wonder if they're still waiting for the whole of the index to be updated before they start doing the calculations on them. So maybe that's still happening. So Google Dance, of course, is back in the day when every month we all woke up one morning and Google Dance started happening, and all the calculations for PageRank were getting adjusted. In the background there may still be some of that going on, where they're doing calculations on a monthly basis. Certainly, I know that they, because they have hundreds of algorithms, I know that they run different algorithms with different periodic frequencies. So some things will only be run, when they find that their data is getting a bit rusty, and some things will be run, all day, every day, and so different algorithms will run at different periods and time frequencies. Makes sense, right? There's no point in running the NFL algorithm, if it's not NFL season. So
sure.
I don't know, but if they've got those kind of things going on. So and links is a difficult one. I think a good link will get picked up pretty quick, to be honest. But I think that Google is spending it's taking a lot longer for Google to decide that it's a good link, I suppose. I don't know what they're doing. I know that really, if you're going to evaluate a link, here's the interesting thing about a link. So an interesting thing about a link is that the day that page is produced, there are no links to that page. So there are only internal links. So that page itself at that particular moment has no authority, because the authority is built up over time. So if that's going to take time for Google to then see the pages that are linked to this new page, and they've got to see them again because they never existed before, and they've got to build up links to see those links to those pages, then of course there is going to be a lag. The bigger the internet gets, the longer it's going to take for them to see authority build up for a given page. So it may be that they see that link very, very quickly, but that page itself is new to the world and hasn't itself got any authority yet. And that could be on any big page. The other thing that happens, of course, is you think a link on the BBC is huge, but if it's a page on news page that is only there for 24 hours and then no one cares about the story, it's just another page. I don't care what site it's on.
It most likely won't even be linked from the BBC website, from
absolutely.
The internal linking anyway.
Not after it's outside the news cycle. Yeah, absolutely.
But don't you think that at the end of the day, we figure it out? There is no big surprises from core update to core update. From feels like we got it. The whole semantic SEO move, what you're doing with the inlinks, and there's no. I don't expect like a big panda or penguin type of turnaround. Even
well, let's save that to the next one. You want to talk about the change again of the people at Google. I think that may mean that there may be some bigger things on the horizon. So maybe bring that on the next one.
True. But it's also true that they focus a lot more on features, trying to be more feature oriented than really changing all the spam filters and the ranking algorithms. Even if you look at the core update in May, it was more fine tuning, like realignment of signals more than really big changes.
I don't know if that's true or whether features are just more visible. We can see when something changes in the features. It's not so easy to see what's changing in the black box.
Sure.
So that may be our own personal bias that then, latches onto these feature elements. But I would imagine also managing and changing features is a lot easier than changing the black box. The black box has so many consequences when you change a bit of the black box.
And we've talked about it before. They haven't really figured it out all the way. This black box, the machine learning black box, is not quality-wise is not up to the par for certain type of queries. But they we've talked about it. We're not going to talk about it again. It's time to move on.
All right, let's go on to the next one. So is that it for now? We'll see you next time.
We will see you next time, and we are coming back with your favorite topic.
Oh, domain authority. Yes. That's my it's my least favorite topic. Okay, yes, right. Okay.
I wanted to. It was the first ever we did, and I feel like we need to go back on it. We need to hammer it again because, let's no spoiler alert.
All right.
So thank you, and until next time, take care.
Bye, guys.